Alan Turing is often regarded as one of the most pivotal figures in the history of science and technology. His work laid the groundwork for the development of modern computing, artificial intelligence, and theoretical mathematics. Turing's contributions transcend the fields of cryptography, mathematics, and computer science, touching aspects of philosophy, logic, and the social sciences. This chapter serves as an introduction to Turing's extraordinary life and legacy, exploring the profound impact his work continues to have on our contemporary understanding of computation and intelligence. Turing was a mathematician whose influence is felt not only in his own time, but in every moment of technological progress since his death. His groundbreaking concept of the Turing machine, proposed in 1936, revolutionized the way mathematicians and scientists understood computation. The Turing machine was a theoretical construct that helped define the limits of what can be computed, shaping the foundation for the development of actual computing devices. The elegance of his work continues to guide the development of algorithms and software systems that power the digital age. Beyond his work in computing, Turing's involvement in breaking the German Enigma code during World War II helped to shorten the conflict and save millions of lives. His code-breaking efforts at Bletchley Park, where he led the development of the bomb machine, were instrumental in deciphering the encrypted communications of the Nazis. This achievement was vital to the Allied victory. Yet, despite the critical nature of his work, Turing's contributions remained secret for many years following the war. His recognition came posthumously, but his legacy as a key figure in the war effort is undeniable. Turing's intellectual pursuits were not limited to the practical applications of mathematics and logic. His work also posed fundamental philosophical questions about the nature of intelligence and the possibility of machines thinking like humans. The Turing test, developed in 1950, became a seminal concept in the field of artificial intelligence. It challenged the traditional boundaries between human and machine intelligence and remains a benchmark for evaluating machine cognition. Through his work, Turing set the stage for ongoing debates in artificial intelligence that continue to this day. While Turing's scientific achievements were groundbreaking, his life was marred by personal struggles, particularly his persecution for his homosexuality. At a time when homosexual acts were criminalized in Britain, Turing's sexuality was discovered, leading to his prosecution and subsequent chemical castration. This personal tragedy serves as a poignant reminder of the social prejudices that shaped his life, despite his monumental contributions to science. Turing's story is one of brilliance, but also of tragic injustice, as his work was not fully appreciated or acknowledged during his lifetime. Despite the injustices Turing faced, his legacy has experienced a remarkable resurgence in recent decades. He has been posthumously recognized not only for his scientific achievements, but also for the persecution he endured because of his sexuality. In 2009, the British government issued a formal apology for the treatment he received, and in 2013, Queen Elizabeth II granted him a royal pardon. These acknowledgments, however, come too late for Turing, who tragically passed away in 1954 under mysterious circumstances at the age of 41. Turing's enduring legacy is reflected in the modern world's ongoing dependence on computing technology. From smartphones to artificial intelligence, Turing's vision and principles continue to influence the way technology evolves. The advent of quantum computing, in particular, has reignited interest in Turing's early work on the theoretical limits of computation. His contributions have not only shaped the past, but continue to guide the future of technological innovation. Alan Turing's story is not just one of scientific achievement, but also a tale of human perseverance in the face of adversity. His personal life was marked by societal rejection, yet he triumphed intellectually, reshaping the modern world. The dichotomy between Turing's intellectual brilliance and the tragic circumstances surrounding his life is what makes his story so compelling and important. In the pages that follow, we will explore his journey, tracing the key moments of his life and examining how each shaped the legacy he left behind. The significance of Turing's work cannot be overstated. It was his profound understanding of abstract mathematical concepts and his ability to translate them into practical applications that revolutionized the concept of computation. His vision extended far beyond his contemporaries, and it is only now, with the benefit of hindsight, that we fully appreciate the magnitude of his contributions. Turing was a pioneer whose work laid the foundation for an entire field, and it is impossible to overestimate his role in the birth of the information age. Alan Matheson Turing was born on June 23, 1912, in Maida Vale, London, to Julius Turing, a civil servant in the Indian Civil Service, and Ethel Sarah Turing, a homemaker. The environment in which Alan grew up was one of modest affluence, though his father's frequent absences, due to work in India, and the often strained relationship between his parents left a noticeable mark on his early life. Turing's family was not particularly close, and he spent much of his childhood with his mother, who later described him as a solitary, introspective child, more inclined to books than to socializing with other children. It was in these formative years that his intellectual precocity began to manifest, even though he did not fit the conventional image of a child prodigy. Turing's early education began at St. Michael's, a local school in the suburbs of London. However, he showed little interest in the traditional subjects taught there. His academic inclinations were not immediately clear to those around him. Turing was often described as quiet and somewhat aloof, preferring to explore the natural world or engage in solitary pursuits. It was not until his years at Sherborne School, a prestigious boarding school in Dorset, that his true intellectual abilities began to emerge. Though initially out of place in the rigid social hierarchy of the school, Turing's curiosity and persistence gradually earned him the respect of his peers and teachers. At Sherborne, Turing's passion for mathematics and science was ignited. The headmaster, a man of considerable academic stature, recognized Turing's potential and encouraged him to pursue his burgeoning interest in mathematics. Though Turing excelled in the sciences, his social awkwardness continued to alienate him from many of his classmates, who often saw him as an oddity. This social isolation, however, did not seem to deter Turing. Instead, it seemed to fuel his focus on academic pursuits. His notebooks from this time are filled with detailed mathematical notations, many of which were ahead of their time. His genius was evident, even if it went largely unnoticed by the broader school community. Upon graduation from Sherborne in 1931, Turing was faced with the next important decision of his life: where to pursue his higher education. He applied to several universities, but his choice ultimately fell on King's College, Cambridge. At Cambridge, Turing would begin his journey toward becoming one of the most influential figures in 20th century mathematics. The university was a hub of intellectual innovation, and it was here that Turing's innate brilliance would find its first major outlet. His choice of Cambridge was also informed by the institution's mathematical reputation, which, at the time, was unrivaled. Turing's time at King's College proved to be transformative. He was admitted as a Fellow of the college in 1935, largely in recognition of his extraordinary work in mathematics. His academic brilliance was quickly apparent to his professors, particularly when, in his first year, he solved a long-standing problem in probability theory. This was the beginning of Turing's intellectual ascendancy, and it marked the start of a relationship with mathematics that would remain central to his life. Turing's most significant academic achievement at Cambridge was his discovery of the central concept of computability, a realization that would have profound implications for the future of computing and logic. While at Cambridge, Turing became fascinated with the work of Kurt Gödel, a prominent logician whose incompleteness theorems had shaken the foundations of mathematics. It was Gödel's work that led Turing to develop his own theory of computation, which would culminate in the concept of the Turing machine. This theoretical device was an abstraction that allowed mathematicians to think about algorithms and computation in a completely new way. The Turing machine provided a framework for understanding what it means for a process to be computable, setting the stage for the development of modern computer science. In addition to his academic pursuits, Turing became deeply interested in philosophy, particularly in questions about the nature of the mind and intelligence. He was drawn to the works of Ludwig Wittgenstein, whose philosophical writings on language and logic intrigued him. Turing's interest in philosophy was intertwined with his mathematical work, as he sought to understand the relationship between machines and human cognition. His early exploration of these ideas would later be crystallized in the development of the Turing test, a concept that sought to answer the question, can machines think? Turing's studies at Cambridge, however, were not without challenges. His social difficulties persisted, and he struggled with the formalities of university life. Yet, these challenges seemed only to deepen his focus on his intellectual pursuits. The Cambridge environment, with its rich intellectual resources and its tradition of open inquiry, allowed Turing to flourish academically, even if he remained somewhat distant from his peers. His time at Cambridge was a period of intense intellectual growth, during which he developed many of the ideas that would later shape his career. In 1936, Turing graduated from Cambridge with first-class honors in mathematics. His time at Cambridge had established him as one of the brightest young minds in the world of theoretical mathematics. But Turing's intellectual journey was far from over. In the same year, he began his postgraduate studies at Princeton University in the United States, where he would continue his exploration of mathematical logic and computation. At Princeton, Turing encountered new ideas and intellectual challenges that would further shape his future work. It was here that he came into contact with the leading thinkers of his time, including Alonzo Church, an American mathematician and logician, whose work would deeply influence Turing's own ideas about computation and formal systems. By 1936, Alan Turing had already made an indelible mark on the world of mathematics, despite his relatively young age. At the age of 24, he wrote one of the most significant papers in the history of logic and mathematics on computable numbers with an application to the Inch-Chi-Dunks problem. This work not only changed the trajectory of his career, but also introduced a groundbreaking concept that would lay the foundation for the future development of computers. Turing's ability to take abstract mathematical concepts and transform them into a framework for understanding the nature of computation was a testament to his genius. In this seminal paper, Turing tackled one of the most pressing issues in the mathematical community at the time, the Inch-Chi-Dunks problem, or decision problem. This problem had been posed by David Hilbert in 1928, asking whether there could exist a general algorithm that could determine whether a given mathematical statement was true or false. Hilbert believed that such an algorithm could exist, but several leading mathematicians, including Kurt Gödel, had shown that the question was more complicated than originally thought. Turing's contribution was to propose an entirely new approach to the problem, which not only answered the Inch-Chi-Dunks problem, but also introduced the concept of a computational process in a form never seen before. Turing's solution to the Inch-Chi-Dunks problem was revolutionary. He introduced the idea of the Turing machine, a theoretical construct that could model any algorithmic computation. The Turing machine was an abstract mathematical device that could simulate the logical steps of any process that could be described by an algorithm. It consisted of an infinite tape divided into cells and a head that could read and write symbols on the tape according to a set of rules. This simple yet powerful idea formed the backbone of Turing's theory of computation and proved that there were limits to what could be computed by a mechanical process. The importance of the Turing machine was not immediately recognized by the broader mathematical community, but over time it became clear that Turing had struck upon a profound insight. The Turing machine provided a formal definition of computability, offering a framework for understanding what problems could and could not be solved by mechanical means. This concept became central to the development of computer science, influencing not only the field's theoretical foundations, but also its practical applications in the creation of actual computing devices. Turing's work on the Inch-Chi-Dunks problem and the Turing machine also had far-reaching implications for the philosophy of mathematics. His approach challenged the formalist view championed by mathematicians like Hilbert, who believed that all mathematical truths could be proven through formal, mechanical processes. Turing's findings showed that there were certain problems, known as undecidable problems, that could not be solved by any algorithm, no matter how powerful the machine. This realization had profound implications for our understanding of mathematics, as it revealed the inherent limitations of formal systems and algorithms. The publication of his 1936 paper earned Turing recognition in the academic world, particularly among those working in mathematical logic. His work was groundbreaking not just for the solutions it provided, but also for the new questions it raised. It pointed the way forward for the development of computer science and computational theory, areas that had yet to fully come into existence. However, Turing's work in mathematics was not confined to theoretical studies alone. He had an unusual ability to apply his abstract ideas to real-world problems, an ability that would prove invaluable in the coming years. During the same period that Turing was developing his theoretical work on computability, he was also honing his skills in applied mathematics. This combination of theoretical insight and practical problem-solving would soon propel him into a new chapter of his career. In 1938, he was invited to speak at a meeting of the London Mathematical Society, where he introduced a new form of computing machinery that would later become known as the Turing machine. At this event, Turing's intellectual prowess became undeniable to those in attendance, solidifying his reputation as one of the foremost mathematical minds of his generation. Despite the significance of his early work, Turing's career was not yet fully established. He was still relatively unknown outside of academic circles, and many of his most important ideas had not yet received widespread attention. However, Turing's innovative thinking and relentless pursuit of knowledge soon led to new opportunities. In 1939, Turing's career took a decisive turn when he was invited to join the government code and cipher school at Bletchley Park, where he would begin his work on cracking the German Enigma code, a mission that would change the course of World War II. Even as Turing shifted his focus toward cryptography during the war, his earlier work continued to influence his approach to solving practical problems. The concept of the Turing machine, for example, would be instrumental in the development of the bomb machine, which he created to decipher the Enigma code. The bomb, an electromechanical device, was a direct application of Turing's theoretical work, demonstrating his unique ability to bridge the gap between abstract theory and practical engineering. In many ways, Turing's early work set the stage for the technological advancements of the 20th century. His theoretical insights into computation and algorithmic processes not only changed the way mathematicians thought about problems, but also laid the groundwork for the development of modern computers. The abstract concepts he introduced in his 1936 paper would later become the cornerstone of computer science, influencing the design of early computers and informing the work of generations of researchers. In the autumn of 1936, after completing his groundbreaking work on the Turing machine, Alan Turing left England to further his studies in the United States. He accepted an invitation to join Princeton University's Institute for Advanced Study, where he would spend the next few years working alongside some of the leading minds in mathematics and logic. The decision to move to Princeton was not only a pivotal moment in Turing's life, but also one that would have far-reaching consequences for the fields of mathematics and computer science. Turing arrived in Princeton in 1936, just a few months after the publication of his landmark paper on computable numbers. He was young, ambitious, and eager to deepen his understanding of mathematical logic and computation. The Institute for Advanced Study was a prestigious institution known for attracting the world's best intellectuals, including Albert Einstein, who had arrived there a few years earlier. Though Turing and Einstein did not directly collaborate, their time at Princeton overlapped, and Turing was keenly aware of the intellectual environment in which he found himself. Turing's time at Princeton was marked by a continued exploration of the foundations of mathematics. One of the key figures he encountered at Princeton was Alonzo Church, an American logician and mathematician who was already well known for his work on lambda calculus, a formal system of computation that, like Turing's machines, sought to describe the concept of computability. Church and Turing would become intellectual peers, with both men seeking to formalize the notion of an algorithm and the limits of what could be computed. Although they pursued slightly different approaches, Church with his lambda calculus and Turing with his machines. Their ideas were ultimately equivalent. This realization led to the formulation of the Church-Turing thesis, a principle that states that anything computable by a human using an algorithm can also be computed by a Turing machine, and, by extension, a computer. During his time at Princeton, Turing delved deeper into the theoretical aspects of computation, further refining his ideas. He spent much of his time immersed in the abstract world of mathematical logic, developing more advanced concepts that would later be critical to his work on cryptography during World War II. Turing's intellectual pursuits at Princeton were not confined to the classroom or his research papers alone. He was deeply influenced by the stimulating conversations he had with other scholars at the Institute, many of whom would go on to become major figures in their respective fields. Turing's work at Princeton also marked a period of personal development. Though he had always been an isolated figure, he became more integrated into the intellectual community at the Institute. He was known for his brilliance and occasional eccentricities, often engaging in animated debates with his fellow students and faculty members. While his social awkwardness remained, Turing's keen intellect and insatiable curiosity earned him a reputation as one of the leading mathematical minds of his generation. His time at Princeton helped solidify his place among the great intellectuals of the time, though the full extent of his influence would not be recognized until much later. Princeton was also where Turing made one of his most significant intellectual contributions. His refinement of the concept of computability and his deeper understanding of the limits of formal systems. It was at this stage in his career that Turing began to think about the broader implications of his work, especially regarding the future of machines and computation. He was acutely aware that his theoretical work could eventually lead to the creation of machines capable of performing tasks that had previously been considered the exclusive domain of human intelligence. This realization would stay with him throughout his career and lead to some of his most famous later work, including the development of the Turing test and his contributions to the code-breaking efforts during World War II. Turing's intellectual achievements during his time at Princeton also laid the groundwork for his later work on cryptography. At Princeton, he honed his skills in the abstract manipulation of symbols and processes, and it was this expertise that would prove invaluable in his future work deciphering the German Enigma code at Bletchley Park. However, Princeton was not only a time of intellectual growth for Turing. It was also a period when he began to wrestle with questions of philosophy and the nature of intelligence. His exposure to philosophical thought, particularly through his interactions with church and other scholars, would contribute to his later ideas about artificial intelligence and machine learning. While Turing thrived intellectually in Princeton, there was still a sense of displacement in his personal life. He had yet to find a true sense of belonging in the world around him. His social isolation, a theme that had marked much of his life, continued to cast a shadow over his time in the United States. Turing was an openly eccentric figure, and though his brilliance was universally acknowledged, he remained somewhat detached from the social circles that surrounded him. His relationships with others were few and often distant, and his deep sense of loneliness became more pronounced as time passed. Yet, despite these personal struggles, Turing's work flourished, and it was during this period that he cemented his place as one of the most original thinkers of his generation. The academic environment at Princeton was a perfect match for Turing's intellectual temperament. The Institute for Advanced Study provided him with the freedom to pursue his ideas without the pressures of teaching or administrative duties. This rarefied atmosphere allowed Turing to focus entirely on his research, and the results were significant. His time at Princeton helped shape his thinking on the future of computing, formal logic, and artificial intelligence, ideas that would eventually change the course of history. In fact, his work during these years would influence not only mathematics and logic, but also the emerging field of computer science, which was still in its infancy. In 1938, Turing completed his doctorate at Princeton, and his time in America came to an end. By this point, he had already made several lasting contributions to mathematics and computer science, and his reputation as a brilliant logician was well established. Yet, Turing's next steps would take him down a path that would diverge sharply from the academic work he had been engaged in. As the world descended into the chaos of World War II, Turing's extraordinary talents would soon be channeled into a new and urgent mission: cracking the Nazi Enigma code, a task that would demand all of his intellectual prowess and change the course of the war. Turing's move to Princeton marked a significant phase in his intellectual journey. It was here that he made important strides in formalizing the concept of computation, contributed to the Church-Turing thesis, and began to contemplate the future of artificial intelligence. His time in America not only shaped his scientific legacy, but also set the stage for the cryptographic breakthroughs that would soon become central to his life. In 1939, as tensions in Europe escalated and World War II loomed ever closer, Alan Turing's life took a dramatic turn. He was recruited to join the British Government Code and Cipher School, located at Bletchley Park, a country estate in Buckinghamshire, England. This move would mark the beginning of Turing's most significant and impactful work: his contributions to breaking the German Enigma code, a task that would become pivotal to the Allied victory. It was here, in the midst of wartime secrecy and urgency, that Turing's theoretical work on computation and logic found its most immediate and practical application. The Enigma machine, used by Nazi Germany for encrypting military communications, was a cipher machine considered unbreakable by the German military. The complexity of the machine's encryption system, comprising a series of rotors and settings, meant that it could produce a virtually infinite number of possible encryptions. The Germans believed that Enigma's encryption was so robust that it could never be deciphered by the Allies. However, the Allies, particularly the British, were aware of the strategic importance of cracking the Enigma codes. The task fell to the team of cryptanalysts at Bletchley Park, and Turing was about to become the pivotal figure in this effort. Upon arriving at Bletchley Park, Turing found himself working alongside a group of brilliant mathematicians, linguists, and engineers. While the work environment was intense and secretive, it was also one that played to Turing's strengths. The cryptanalysts were tasked with breaking encrypted messages that had been sent by the German military, and Turing's expertise in logic, mathematics, and his conceptualization of the Turing machine would prove to be invaluable. At Bletchley Park, Turing quickly gained a reputation for his extraordinary intellect and his ability to devise creative solutions to seemingly insurmountable problems. One of Turing's early challenges was to break the Enigma's encryption, which was based on a system of rotating wheels or rotors. Each time a key was pressed on the machine, the rotors would change positions, creating a different substitution cipher. The problem of breaking the code was compounded by the vast number of possible combinations, making a brute force approach impossible. Turing, however, was undeterred. Drawing on his knowledge of abstract mathematical concepts, he realized that the key to solving the Enigma puzzle lay in recognizing patterns in the encrypted messages. Turing's solution came in the form of the bomb, a machine he designed to automate the process of testing various combinations of Enigma settings. The bomb worked by simulating the actions of the Enigma machine, systematically testing potential rotor configurations to identify the correct one. The machine significantly accelerated the process of code breaking, enabling the cryptanalysts at Bletchley Park to decipher large volumes of encrypted German communications. The bomb was an engineering marvel and a direct application of Turing's theoretical work on algorithms and computability, bringing his abstract concepts to life in a practical, world-altering way. Turing's role at Bletchley Park went far beyond simply designing the bomb. His deep understanding of the Enigma machine's encryption mechanisms allowed him to make significant breakthroughs in breaking the cipher. He developed methods for exploiting predictable patterns in the messages, such as the use of common phrases or repetitive structures. These insights helped narrow down the possible settings for the Enigma machine, further aiding the bomb in its task. As the war progressed, the breaking of the Enigma code became an essential part of the Allied war effort, and Turing's contributions were instrumental in gaining intelligence that would turn the tide of the conflict. Despite his central role in the success of the code-breaking efforts, Turing remained largely unrecognized during the war. The work at Bletchley Park was highly classified, and the achievements of those involved were kept secret for many years after the war's conclusion. Turing's own role in the code-breaking effort was shrouded in mystery, and he did not receive public acknowledgement for his groundbreaking work during his lifetime. This secrecy, combined with Turing's own personal struggles, would contribute to the isolation and challenges he faced in the years following the war. The breaking of the Enigma code had a profound impact on the course of the war. It provided the Allies with critical intelligence, allowing them to intercept and decode German military communications, including messages related to troop movements, naval operations, and battle strategies. This intelligence played a crucial role in key victories, such as the Battle of the Atlantic, where the Allies were able to track and destroy German U-boats, and in the D-Day invasion, where knowledge of German defenses was vital for the success of the operation. The work done at Bletchley Park, and Turing's contributions in particular, helped shorten the war and save countless lives. Yet the personal cost of Turing's work at Bletchley Park was significant. The pressure of working on such a high-stakes, secretive project took a toll on Turing's mental and physical health. He often worked long hours, driven by a relentless desire to crack the Enigma code, and the isolation of Bletchley Park, compounded by the secrecy surrounding the operation, further alienated him. Turing's eccentricities, which had marked his earlier years, became more pronounced during the war, and he struggled to connect with his colleagues on a personal level. While he was respected for his intellect, his social difficulties remained, and the intensity of the war effort left little time for personal relationships. Despite these challenges, Turing's work at Bletchley Park earned him the admiration of his peers. His colleagues recognized his brilliance and the extraordinary depth of his knowledge. His ability to see patterns where others saw only complexity, and his relentless pursuit of solutions were qualities that set him apart as one of the leading minds in the field. Yet, even as the code-breaking efforts proved to be successful and crucial to the Allied victory, Turing remained a relatively obscure figure, known primarily to a small circle of cryptanalysts and military officials. By the end of the war, Turing had helped crack the Enigma code, contributed to the development of the bomb, and played an instrumental role in gathering critical intelligence that had significant military and strategic implications. The success of the code-breaking operation at Bletchley Park and Turing's key role in it could not be overstated. The war may have ended in 1945, but Turing's contributions had already ensured his place in history. However, the recognition he so richly deserved would come too late, and the story of Turing's war efforts would remain classified for many years. The impact of his work, however, was far-reaching, laying the groundwork for modern computing and changing the course of history in ways that would be fully appreciated only decades later. As Turing's role in the war wound down, his thoughts began to turn to his post-war ambitions. He had been transformed by his time at Bletchley Park, not just as a mathematician and cryptanalyst, but as someone who had seen firsthand the transformative power of machines and computation. His work on the bomb and the insights he gained from deciphering the Enigma code would shape his vision for the future of computing and artificial intelligence. With the end of World War II in 1945, Alan Turing's work at Bletchley Park came to a close, but his intellectual journey was far from over. The war had left a profound mark on Turing, both personally and professionally. His work on breaking the Enigma code had proven his genius, but as the world transitioned into the post-war era, Turing's thoughts turned to new frontiers, particularly in the realm of computing. The theoretical foundation he had laid with the Turing machine was about to be transformed into something tangible, and Turing would soon play a pivotal role in the early development of the first computers. In 1945, Turing took up a position at the University of Manchester, where he was given the opportunity to apply his theoretical work on computation to the development of one of the world's first electronic computers. It was here that he would begin to conceptualize and work on the design of a machine that could perform computations far beyond the scope of anything previously imagined. At Manchester, Turing was surrounded by some of the brightest minds in engineering and mathematics, and he was able to translate his ideas from abstract theories into real-world applications. One of Turing's most significant contributions to the field of computing during this period was his work on the automatic computing engine, ACE. While others around the world were also working on early computer designs, Turing's approach was unique. He recognized that a true computing machine should not only be able to perform calculations, but also have the ability to be reprogrammed to solve a variety of problems. This idea of programmable machines was revolutionary and would become the foundation of modern computer science. Turing's design for the ACE was ambitious, featuring a stored program architecture that allowed the machine to store both data and instructions in memory, an innovation that would become a key element in the development of modern computers. Turing's work on the ACE was not without its challenges, and the project did not progress as quickly as he had hoped. The engineering constraints of the time, combined with the need for significant funding and resources, meant that the machine was never fully realized during Turing's lifetime. However, his theoretical contributions to the development of computer architecture laid the groundwork for future advancements. The idea of stored program computers that Turing championed would eventually be realized in machines like the Manchester Mark I and the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, ENIAC, which were built shortly after Turing's initial concepts. Turing's time at Manchester also marked a shift in his intellectual focus. While much of his earlier work had been grounded in mathematics and logic, he became increasingly interested in the idea of machines that could simulate human intelligence. This shift in focus would lead to his development of the famous Turing test, a concept that would define much of his later career and cement his legacy in the emerging field of artificial intelligence. The Turing test, proposed in 1950 in his paper Computing Machinery and Intelligence, sought to answer a fundamental question: can machines think? This provocative question would challenge future generations of scientists, philosophers, and engineers as they wrestled with the implications of creating machines that could mimic human thought. The Turing test posited that the question of whether a machine could think should not be answered directly by asking the machine itself, but rather by assessing its ability to engage in conversation indistinguishable from that of a human. The test involved a human evaluator communicating with both a machine and a human without knowing which was which. If the evaluator could not reliably distinguish between the two, the machine would be considered to have passed the test. While the Turing test was not intended to be a definitive measure of artificial intelligence, it provided a framework for thinking about the problem and has remained a foundational concept in discussions of machine learning and AI ever since. As Turing delved deeper into the potential for machines to exhibit intelligent behavior, he also began to consider the broader philosophical implications of his work. The idea of a thinking machine challenged traditional notions of what it meant to be human, and Turing was acutely aware of the ethical and societal ramifications of his ideas. Though his work on artificial intelligence was still in its infancy, Turing's ideas laid the groundwork for the development of AI research in the decades that followed. His thoughts on the relationship between humans and machines would resonate through the fields of cognitive science, robotics, and computer science, influencing generations of researchers in their pursuit of creating machines that could think and learn. Throughout this period, Turing also continued to engage with the mathematical community, although his work was becoming more interdisciplinary. He sought to bridge the gap between pure mathematics, engineering, and philosophy, drawing connections between these fields in his quest to understand the nature of computation and intelligence. He was increasingly recognized as one of the foremost intellectuals of his time, though his contributions to computing and AI were not widely appreciated during his lifetime. Turing's ideas were often ahead of their time, and many of the concepts he introduced would not come to full fruition until decades later. Turing's interest in artificial intelligence was not just a theoretical exercise, but had practical applications as well. He envisioned machines that could learn from experience, adapt to new tasks, and even improve their own performance over time. This idea of self-improving machines foreshadowed many of the concepts that would later be central to the development of machine learning and neural networks. Turing's contributions to the development of intelligent machines were thus far-reaching, and his ideas about learning algorithms and the potential for machines to exhibit human-like behavior have continued to shape the trajectory of AI research. However, despite his groundbreaking work, Turing's post-war career was marked by personal and professional struggles. His homosexuality, which was illegal in Britain at the time, led to his persecution and eventual conviction for gross indecency in 1952. This legal and social persecution had a profound impact on Turing, and it is believed to have contributed to his mental health struggles. Turing's tragic death in 1954, at the age of 41, meant that he did not live to see the full impact of his contributions to computing and artificial intelligence. His work, though, has continued to shape the field long after his death, and his legacy has only grown in stature as the years have passed. Alan Turing's life took a devastating turn in 1952 when he became entangled in the legal system due to his homosexuality. At the time, homosexuality was criminalized in the United Kingdom, and Turing, despite his monumental contributions to science and technology, was no exception to this harsh societal rule. What followed was a period of legal persecution, social stigma, and profound personal anguish that cast a shadow over Turing's later years. His tragic legal struggles, combined with the relentless toll on his mental health, led to a sad and untimely end, marking the culmination of a life that had been filled with brilliance, yet marred by societal rejection. The event that sparked Turing's legal troubles began in early 1952, when he reported a burglary at his home in Wilmslow, Cheshire. In the course of the police investigation, Turing casually revealed to the officers that he had been in a homosexual relationship with a man named Arnold Murray, who was one of the perpetrators of the crime. Although the burglary was a minor matter, Turing's admission about his sexual orientation led to a more invasive investigation. Homosexuality was still a criminal offense in Britain, and it wasn't long before Turing's sexual conduct was scrutinized, leading to charges of gross indecency, the term used to describe homosexual acts at the time. Turing, despite his pioneering achievements, was treated as a criminal. He was arrested and faced a trial in 1952. His defense, which had been rooted in his belief that his sexuality should not define his worth or his intellectual contributions, fell on deaf ears. The legal system, influenced by the prevailing societal prejudices of the time, could not see beyond his sexuality. In the trial, Turing's genius in mathematics, his role in cracking the Enigma code, and his contributions to computing and artificial intelligence were not even considered in his defense. Instead, the focus was on his personal life, which was perceived as deviant and immoral according to the standards of the time. Turing was convicted of gross indecency and, rather than being imprisoned, was given the option of undergoing chemical castration through hormonal treatment. This treatment, which was intended to reduce his libido, was presented as an alternative to a prison sentence, but it was a cruel and deeply damaging choice. The hormones, administered in the form of estrogen, caused Turing significant physical and psychological distress. He began to experience side effects such as weight gain, breast development, and depression, which severely affected his well-being. This forced treatment, which was not only dehumanizing but also ineffective, shattered his sense of self and his ability to function with the same clarity and focus that had driven his scientific work. The societal implications of Turing's conviction were equally harsh. As a result of his legal troubles, Turing lost his security clearance, which meant he could no longer work on classified government projects. This loss of access to the very work that had shaped his career was a blow to his intellectual spirit, further isolating him from the world of scientific collaboration. His standing in the academic community also suffered, and he was increasingly marginalized, despite his extraordinary accomplishments. Turing had spent much of his life in relative isolation, but now he was increasingly alienated by the very society he had worked so tirelessly to benefit. Beyond the professional and social ramifications, the psychological toll of his conviction was immense. Turing had always struggled with a sense of alienation and difficulty connecting with others, but the punishment he faced for his homosexuality made these struggles even more pronounced. The legal system and society had deemed him an outcast, and he found it difficult to reconcile the immense contributions he had made to the war effort and to science with the treatment he was receiving. The shame, humiliation, and persecution wore on him, making it harder for him to maintain the hope and energy he once had. Turing's emotional and psychological distress culminated in his tragic death in 1954. On June 7, 1954, Alan Turing was found dead in his home from cyanide poisoning, in what was later ruled as suicide. He had died at the age of 41, a young man whose brilliance and contributions had been overshadowed by the cruelty and prejudice of his time. The circumstances surrounding his death have been the subject of much debate, but the overwhelming consensus is that Turing, crushed by the weight of his legal conviction and the resulting personal devastation, took his own life. His death marked a tragic end to a life that had the potential to shape the future of computing, artificial intelligence, and mathematics in ways that no one could have fully anticipated. The manner of Turing's death, and the fact that it was a suicide, was a heartbreaking conclusion to a life filled with so much promise. The loss of Alan Turing at such a young age, in such a painful and unnecessary manner, was not only a tragedy for his family and friends, but also for the scientific community. The world had lost a brilliant mind who had made monumental contributions to the fields of mathematics and computing, and whose work would continue to reverberate through generations of researchers and innovators. Turing's early death meant that he would not live to see the tremendous impact of his contributions, nor would he witness the gradual shift in societal attitudes toward homosexuality. In the years following his death, Turing's legacy began to receive increasing recognition. As computers became more ubiquitous, the impact of Turing's work became clearer, and his contributions to the development of computer science were acknowledged in a more public way. His role in the creation of the modern computer, his theories of computation, and his early conceptualizations of artificial intelligence became the cornerstone of the field. However, Turing's reputation as a scientist was not enough to erase the pain of his persecution. The years he spent fighting against the intolerance of his society cast a long shadow over his legacy, despite the increasing respect and admiration he received posthumously. In 2009, British Prime Minister Gordon Brown issued an official apology for the treatment of Alan Turing, acknowledging the grave injustice he had suffered. The apology, though a step toward recognizing the wrongs done to Turing, could not undo the pain he endured in his lifetime. It was not until 2013, nearly 60 years after Turing's death, that Queen Elizabeth II granted him a posthumous pardon, finally exonerating him of the charges that had ruined his life. These posthumous acknowledgments came far too late for Turing, but they serve as a testament to the enduring value of his contributions to science and the shameful history of how society treated him. In the decades following Alan Turing's tragic death, the legacy of his contributions to mathematics, computer science, and artificial intelligence was slowly recognized, though not without significant delays. His work, once overshadowed by personal persecution and the general neglect of his achievements during his lifetime, eventually came to be regarded as one of the most important intellectual contributions of the 20th century. Over time, Turing's ideas and innovations in the field of computing gained the admiration of scientists, scholars, and the general public, making him an iconic figure in the history of technology. The first steps toward recognizing Turing's genius began in the academic and scientific communities. As the digital age progressed, Turing's groundbreaking work on computation and artificial intelligence became more apparent. The early computers that followed in the wake of his conceptualization of the Turing machine were based on the very principles he had formulated in the 1930s. In the mid-20th century, as computers became more widespread and essential to modern life, it became clear that Turing's theoretical insights had laid the foundation for much of the progress in the computing world. In the 1970s and 1980s, the growing field of artificial intelligence drew on Turing's vision of machines that could think, learn, and even mimic human cognition. Researchers working in AI often refer to his work on the Turing test, which provided a framework for evaluating a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior. This idea, once viewed as speculative, was beginning to inspire a new generation of scientists interested in creating machines that could perform tasks typically associated with human thought. Turing's work on the fundamental principles of computation and algorithmic problem-solving thus became central to the development of modern AI. While his professional contributions to computing were gaining recognition, Turing's personal life and the injustices he suffered were becoming an increasingly important aspect of his legacy. As the social and legal landscape shifted, attitudes toward LGBTQ+ rights and equality began to change. Turing's treatment by the British legal system, his persecution for his homosexuality, and the devastating impact these events had on his life became a rallying point for those advocating for the rights of sexual minorities. His case served as an example of the deeply entrenched prejudice of the time, and his suffering was increasingly viewed as a symbol of the harm caused by intolerance and discrimination. Public awareness of Turing's story grew in the 1990s and 2000s. Turing's work was honored in numerous ways, but it was the increased recognition of his unjust treatment that sparked a movement for formal apology and reparations. The idea of offering Turing a posthumous pardon for his conviction of gross indecency began to gain traction. As attitudes toward homosexuality became more progressive in the UK and around the world, many saw the pardon as both a moral and legal necessity. This recognition, however, came too late to undo the harm Turing had suffered in his lifetime. The first major step toward official recognition occurred in 2009 when British Prime Minister Gordon Brown issued a public apology for Turing's treatment. The apology was widely seen as a long-overdue acknowledgement of the injustice Turing had faced, though it stopped short of offering a full legal pardon. Brown's apology was a powerful statement, marking a turning point in the public's understanding of Turing's life and work. It acknowledged that Turing had been a hero and that his persecution had been a tragic mistake. However, many felt that Turing deserved more than an apology. It was clear that the wrongs done to him demanded further redress. The campaign for Turing's official pardon continued, and in 2013, following years of public pressure and advocacy from scientists, LGBTQ+ groups, and others, Queen Elizabeth II granted Turing a posthumous pardon. The pardon was a significant step in recognizing Turing's wrongful conviction and symbolized a broader shift in society toward greater acceptance and inclusion. The pardon was met with widespread approval, though it remained bittersweet, as it could not reverse the pain and suffering Turing had endured during his lifetime. Despite the tardiness of the official recognition, Turing's pardon represented a vindication of sorts for his life and work. Turing's posthumous recognition did not end with his pardon. As the 21st century unfolded, his legacy continued to grow, both within the academic world and in popular culture. Numerous books, documentaries, and films have been produced about his life and his work, further cementing his place in the pantheon of great minds. One of the most notable examples was the 2014 film The Imitation Game, which dramatized Turing's role in cracking the Enigma code and explored his personal struggles with his sexuality. The film brought Turing's story to a wider audience, introducing his brilliance and his personal pain to a new generation. The film's success contributed to the public's understanding of Turing's significance and the injustices he faced, sparking further discussions about his legacy. In addition to cultural depictions, Turing's name became synonymous with the development of computers and artificial intelligence. The Turing Award, often referred to as the Nobel Prize of Computing, is presented annually by the Association for Computing Machinery, ACM, to individuals who have made significant contributions to the field of computer science. Named in Turing's honor, the award serves as a testament to the lasting impact of his work on the digital age. The award highlights Turing's role in shaping the direction of computing, and the individuals who have received it are often pioneers in fields directly influenced by Turing's groundbreaking ideas. The Alan Turing Institute, founded in 2015, is another important aspect of his legacy. Based in the UK, the Institute is dedicated to research in data science and artificial intelligence, fields to which Turing made early and lasting contributions. The Institute, which brings together researchers and academics from a wide range of disciplines, is a living tribute to Turing's vision of how computation could transform human knowledge and understanding. It aims to push the boundaries of technology and innovation, ensuring that Turing's legacy continues to inspire and shape future advancements in AI and computing. Turing's life and legacy have been embraced by the LGBTQ+ community as well. Turing, who had been so brutally persecuted for his sexuality during his life, is now seen as a hero for the LGBTQ+ rights movement. His posthumous pardon, along with the growing recognition of the injustices he faced, has become a symbol of the struggle for equal rights and acceptance. Turing's story resonates with many LGBTQ+ individuals who, like him, have faced societal rejection and persecution. In this way, Turing's personal journey has become an integral part of the larger narrative about the fight for justice and equality. In the years following his death, Alan Turing's name, once synonymous with persecution and tragedy, gradually became associated with triumph, intellectual brilliance, and an enduring legacy. As society's understanding of his contributions deepened, Turing's life story began to capture the public's imagination. Over time, his intellectual achievements were not only celebrated in academic and scientific circles, but also gained widespread recognition through various forms of popular culture. Books, films, television programs, and even art began to explore his life, turning Turing into a symbol of both genius and profound personal struggle. One of the earliest and most significant steps in Turing's rise to prominence in popular culture was the publication of Alan Turing, The Enigma, a biography written by Andrew Hodges in 1983. This comprehensive work played a critical role in bringing Turing's life and work to the attention of a broader audience. Hodges' biography is often credited with starting the process of rehabilitating Turing's image in the public eye. The book delved deeply into Turing's scientific contributions, his personal struggles, and the injustices he faced, offering a nuanced and empathetic portrayal of the man behind the legendary achievements. It became the cornerstone of much subsequent work on Turing's life and legacy. Hodges' biography also served as the foundation for the 2014 film The Imitation Game, a Hollywood dramatization of Turing's role in cracking the Enigma code and the personal challenges he faced because of his sexuality. The film, starring Benedict Cumberbatch as Turing, was both a critical and commercial success, earning several prestigious awards, including 8 Academy Award nominations. The Imitation Game brought Turing's story to the forefront of popular consciousness and introduced his genius and personal hardships to millions around the world. While the film, like many historical dramas, took liberties with the details of Turing's life for dramatic effect, it nonetheless brought attention to the complexities of Turing's character and the moral injustices he suffered. The success of The Imitation Game was a pivotal moment in how Turing was perceived in popular culture. It helped reshape his image from that of a reclusive and misunderstood figure to a symbol of intellectual brilliance and personal resilience. The film's portrayal of Turing as a socially awkward but deeply compassionate individual also helped humanize him for a wider audience. The stark contrast between his extraordinary contributions to wartime intelligence and his tragic personal fate struck a chord with audiences who were moved by the injustice that Turing had experienced. The film's success marked the beginning of a renewed interest in Turing's life, which has continued to this day. Turing's life and work have also been explored in numerous documentaries, further cementing his place in popular culture. These documentaries have often taken a more factual, analytical approach than dramatic portrayals, diving deep into Turing's scientific contributions, his role in World War II, and his pioneering work in computing. They also provide insight into the political and societal context in which Turing lived, shedding light on the challenges he faced in a society that was hostile to his sexuality. These documentaries have played an important role in educating the public about Turing's legacy, making his story accessible to new generations of viewers who may not have been familiar with his accomplishments. In addition to books and films, Turing's life and work have also been explored in the realm of art and performance. Several theater productions, including plays and stage adaptations, have been inspired by his life, and these works have often focused on the emotional and psychological complexity of his character. These artistic interpretations aim to capture the essence of Turing's intellectual genius, while also delving into the pain and isolation that marked his existence. These performances contribute to the larger narrative of Turing as a tragic figure, someone whose incredible mind was often at odds with the society around him. Turing's legacy has extended beyond literature, film, and the stage into the world of digital art and interactive media. His work in computing, which laid the groundwork for modern computing and artificial intelligence, is frequently referenced in the development of digital technologies. Turing's name has become synonymous with the intellectual and technological revolution that has shaped the 21st century. Video games, virtual reality, and AI-driven technologies often draw on Turing's ideas about machine learning, computation, and the potential for machines to think and learn. In many ways, Turing's intellectual vision continues to be a touchstone for the evolving digital age. Turing's significance as a cultural icon has also found its way into popular music. His image and work have been referenced by musicians, and his story has inspired songs and albums that reflect on themes of intellectual freedom, marginalization, and the struggle for acceptance. Music artists have used Turing's life as a metaphor for the human condition, exploring ideas of isolation, genius, and the tension between individuality and societal norms. These creative expressions contribute to the broader cultural conversation about Turing's legacy, ensuring that his story continues to resonate with diverse audiences in various forms of artistic expression. While much of the attention given to Turing in popular culture has focused on his personal story and his tragic fate, his scientific contributions remain at the forefront of his legacy. Turing's pioneering work on the concept of the Turing machine remains foundational in the fields of computer science and artificial intelligence. The Turing machine, his theoretical model of computation, continues to serve as the basis for the study of algorithms, programming, and computational theory. His vision of the potential for machines to simulate human intelligence has inspired countless researchers and innovators to pursue the creation of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and cognitive computing systems. The Turing Award, one of the highest honors in computer science, serves as another testament to his lasting influence. Named in his honor, the award recognizes individuals who have made significant contributions to the field of computing, and it continues to be awarded annually. Each recipient of the Turing Award is seen as carrying forward the intellectual legacy of Turing himself. The award is a reminder of how deeply Turing's ideas have influenced not only computer science, but also many other fields, such as mathematics, philosophy, and cognitive science. It ensures that his name remains synonymous with progress and innovation in the digital world. In the world of artificial intelligence, Turing's legacy looms large, especially in the ongoing discussion about the Turing test. Though the original test has evolved with the growth of AI research, Turing's fundamental question, can machines think, remains one of the most central inquiries in the field. Researchers today continue to explore the ethical, philosophical, and technical implications of creating machines that can simulate human intelligence. Turing's early conceptualizations about the limits of machine cognition and the potential for computational devices to exhibit behavior that resembles human thought continue to shape modern debates about AI and machine learning. Alan Turing's legacy is not confined solely to the past or the history books. His impact continues to reverberate across various fields today, from computing and artificial intelligence to philosophy and ethics. The principles he set forth and the questions he raised about the nature of human thought, machine learning, and the limits of artificial intelligence are foundational to the ongoing debates that shape the future of technology. His work has not only helped define the digital age, but has also laid the groundwork for the future of intelligent machines, computing, and even the very nature of consciousness itself. In the realm of computing, Turing's contributions are as relevant today as they were in the 1930s. The theoretical model he proposed with the Turing machine is still used to define the limits of what computers can and cannot do. The fundamental concept that a machine can perform any computation, given the right instructions, remains the cornerstone of computer science. As computers have evolved from a massive, room-sized machines of Turing's era to the compact, powerful devices that are now ubiquitous in modern life, his vision has proven to be far ahead of its time. The continued development of more powerful and efficient computational systems, from personal devices to supercomputers, owes much to Turing's groundbreaking work. Beyond the technical side of computing, Turing's ideas have had profound implications for the development of artificial intelligence. His work on the Turing test, which posits that a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to, or indistinguishable from, that of a human is a measure of its intelligence, remains one of the most influential concepts in the field. Although the Turing test has evolved in its application and interpretation, it continues to inspire questions about the nature of intelligence, consciousness, and the potential for machines to replicate or surpass human thought. As artificial intelligence becomes more advanced, the conversation around what it means for a machine to think in the way humans do remains rooted in Turing's early musings. Moreover, the ethical implications of artificial intelligence, which Turing did not fully foresee but which have become central to contemporary debates, are heavily influenced by his work. As AI technologies advance, the questions surrounding their use, governance, and impact on society have grown exponentially. Issues such as privacy, surveillance, bias in algorithms, and the potential displacement of jobs due to automation are just some of the critical challenges that need to be addressed. Turing's work, especially his notion of the limits of machine cognition and the human responsibility in programming and managing such systems, provide the philosophical foundation for these ethical considerations. Today, scholars and ethicists frequently reference Turing's ideas when considering the moral questions posed by the rise of intelligent machines. Turing's legacy has also had a significant influence on how society views the intersection of technology and humanity. The more we integrate artificial intelligence into daily life, the more questions arise about the boundaries between human beings and machines. Turing's life and work force us to reflect on what it means to be human, what constitutes intelligence, and what role machines should play in our world. The growing reliance on AI in sectors ranging from healthcare to finance to entertainment raises fundamental questions about the relationship between human creators and their technological creations. The potential for machines to outperform humans in specific tasks and even develop their own forms of learning has led many to ask whether we will one day need to redefine our concept of human nature. These are questions Turing's work inadvertently began to explore and which will continue to guide intellectual discussions for years to come. In the field of neuroscience and cognitive science, Turing's insights into machine intelligence are also having an impact. His speculations about the potential for machines to simulate human thought have led to a deeper exploration of the human brain and the nature of consciousness. Turing's work laid the foundation for many of the models we use to try and understand how the brain processes information and learns. Some researchers in the field of AI today are inspired by the way the brain functions and are attempting to develop neural networks that mirror the processes of human cognition. In this way, Turing's ideas about the mechanical simulation of thought continue to influence research in the understanding of human consciousness itself. Turing's life, marked by its tragic arc, also remains a symbol of broader social and political themes. His persecution for his homosexuality, once an almost invisible part of his story, has now become a defining aspect of his legacy. His posthumous pardon and the growing recognition of the injustice he suffered highlight the discrimination and prejudice faced by LGBTQ+ individuals in the past and continue to serve as a powerful reminder of the need for social change. Today, Turing is celebrated not only for his intellectual contributions, but also as a champion for LGBTQ+ rights, making him an enduring symbol of resilience and the fight for justice. As LGBTQ+ rights continue to evolve globally, Turing's story serves as both a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope for future generations. Turing's posthumous recognition and the growing appreciation of his scientific achievements have inspired countless individuals in fields as diverse as mathematics, philosophy, computer science, and the arts. The Turing Award, which recognizes groundbreaking contributions to computer science, continues to be one of the most prestigious honors in the field, a reminder of the lasting impact of Turing's work. Similarly, the Alan Turing Institute, which promotes research in data science and artificial intelligence, stands as a testament to Turing's vision for the future of technology and his belief in the transformative power of computation. In the broader cultural context, Turing's legacy is also a reflection of society's evolving views on genius, mental health, and the intersection between the two. Turing was a man whose intellectual capacity far exceeded the standards of his time, yet he also struggled with profound emotional and psychological challenges. His struggles with mental health, compounded by the persecution he faced for his sexuality, are often remembered as part of his tragic story. Yet, Turing's brilliance transcends the personal pain he experienced. Today, his story prompts important conversations about mental health in high-achieving individuals and the need to address the psychological well-being of those who shape our world. The narrative of Turing's genius intertwined with his suffering reminds us that brilliance is not exempt from vulnerability. As technology continues to evolve, Turing's influence will remain central to discussions about the future of computing and artificial intelligence. The exponential growth of AI technologies, particularly in areas such as machine learning, robotics, and natural language processing, reflects the trajectory set in motion by Turing's early work. We are closer than ever to creating machines that can think, learn, and interact in ways that mimic human cognition. The idea of conscious machines, once confined to science fiction, is now a real possibility, and Turing's foundational ideas continue to shape the way we approach these advancements. The study of Turing's work and life serves as a reminder of the importance of curiosity, perseverance, and vision. Despite facing immense challenges, including personal hardship and societal rejection, Turing remained steadfast in his pursuit of knowledge and understanding. His contributions have forever changed the course of history, and his legacy continues to influence not only the fields of mathematics and computer science, but also the broader human experience. Turing's story, though filled with tragedy, is ultimately one of triumph. Triumph over ignorance, triumph over adversity, and most importantly, triumph over the limitations of human understanding. Turing's enduring influence will continue to shape the world for generations to come.